welcome back to the Realm of Unpopular Opinions. This is the first time I am formally greeting you, but happy Halloween, Halloween weekend, Samhain, whichever title you prefer, All Hallows Eve. This is going to be a very short vlog, recommendations, Halloween time, whatever. Later, I will be doing a costume. I will be inserting a picture from where I actually paint my face. I'll be wearing the cloak, the whole thing. But first, I wanted to go through not all the books that I'm going to read, but the options I have for this Halloween. Now, obviously, I have a lot of other books to read. I am aiming to finally finish The Shadow Rising. I have several other shorter books that I'm working through, but these are like the Halloween reads that I will read either today or tomorrow or whichever day I feel like it. Obviously not after the 31st, because then it's kind of thematically irrelevant. But anyway, this is my stack of options and I will work through them. The first one that I have is a little bit obvious. The Graveyard Book. I doubt I'm going to read this, but I still wanted to insert it because it kind of only rings true on Halloween. I didn't love this book, just so we're clear. I'm not a fan of Gaiman, but I read this when I was a kid and I kind of have some nostalgia tied to it. Not a big fan of the book, clearly, but it's very relevant. It takes place in a graveyard and there's a lot of ghosts, so like, maybe. Next up, I have some classics. Now, The Hound of the Baskervilles. I've never read a Sherlock Holmes before, and I feel like The Hound of the Baskervilles is A, one of the most popular, and B, would kind of be spooky for Halloween, so we're going to consider Hound of the Baskervilles. Next up, I have these like little books of poetry. I've got Coleridge. I don't know if you saw that. I've got Keats, Shelley, and you would think this was read Yeats because Keats is read Keats, but I think this is Yeats. So little books of poetry, they are always very atmospheric, so I think I'm gonna just like flip through them, read a couple poems, maybe I put one or two on the screen if I find one that I really liked. Now next, the next one has nothing to do with Halloween, but I don't know, like the vintage look of all of these books, I think my dad bought them when he was in England. I just love the vibe. Like Hamlet, look at this. I think Hamlet is actually my favorite Shakespeare because of how unintentionally funny it is. I freaking loved Hamlet when I read it in high school, so I will consider it. Like, it's not too long. It's really not too long. Plus it's a play. There's a lot of appendices. So I'm definitely going to consider this. Also, I just saw that my mother got this from someone, so yeah, it wasn't the ones that my dad bought from England. Irrelevant. Hamlet is on the list. Next up, we have the German books that I, for some reason, cannot find the sequel to. Scary City. These are middle grades. I remember hating the fact that there was a cliffhanger, so this might be a little bit irritating, but it might actually encourage me to find the sequels to this. So these are middle grades. It's literally in the title, Scary City. I know there's like a demon king or whatever chasing these kids, so this is one option. Now, the next are way more loose. I have this, as you know, this edition of Edgar Allan Poe. This is, I think it's, yeah, the complete tales and poems. So I'm definitely gonna read some poems. I'm not sure about the stories because I don't think any of the stories in here are actually short, and I'm not in the mood for full-length novels on Halloween. Like, this is just supposed to be vibe setting, not actual tomes. But we do have the poems and we have all of Poe's works to consider. There's nothing more Halloween-y than Edgar Allan Poe. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with him. The Black Cat traumatized me in high school, but I love his poetry, so we'll see. And lastly, this is obvious, they do this every year, but I have this like compilation of Penny Dreadfuls. I've read like more than half of them. But this year, I wanted to try reading Frankenstein. I have the audiobook for it, but I never ever listen to audiobooks in one sitting. I'm just not that type of person. So maybe I will read it physically, but also the audiobook is read by Dan Stevens. So I don't know. I will consider it. I also wanted to reread Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but that's also in audiobook format. So we'll see. Maybe while I'm bullet journaling or something, I can just play the audiobook, but you can't go wrong with Penny Dreadfuls because that's literally the point of them. I just noticed that the pumpkins are a bit ominous in the background, but that is it for the Halloween vlog-ish video. I don't know if I'm going to do it spoilery. I don't know if I'm going to do it not spoilery. I might even read like Witch because the first volume is on Halloween. But the point of this is to be very casual, very familiar in a way, like you're talking to a friend on Halloween. For reference, I adore anything witch related, so I had to do it. Later we will do the costuming and stuff. I had no idea at which pace I'll read because I also kind of want to play The Sims. But the point is, I have 2 Halloweeny days for this. Tomorrow I'm having a movie day, so I will try and do the readings today. But that is it. I will not bother you any longer with this. These are the options. We will see if I end up reading even one of these because you never ever know. But since I am going through the trouble of making the video, I hope sincerely that I will read at least half. Excuse the lamp, but I'm reading, so I can't exactly move it. I am almost done with volume 1, but I just wanted to say, if you can see it, Cedric just showed up. Now that I'm older, I think you see where I'm going with this. I feel like I am slightly attracted to some of the villains. Like Cedric in his human form, way more attractive than he was when I was a kid. But I wanted to ask if you read or watched, I think there's a show, but I just read it when I was a kid. If you read or watched Witch as a kid, which girl's boyfriend was your favorite? Like, which couple was your favorite? Because even though I was always Will, I mean, I know I say it in English, but really I always said it like Vil. But I was always like her in games, and she was my favorite of the 5. But in terms of boyfriends, I loved Haylen's boyfriend, and them as a couple, so adorable. Like the star nerd, the bicycle guy, I loved her boyfriend. So I'm genuinely wondering which one was your favorite. I mean, Caleb was Caleb was a whole ass story on his own, so let me know if you read or watched it as a kid. I am done. I am done with part 1 of this. I mean, I love it. It's very nostalgic for me. I don't know if I would like it if it wasn't nostalgic for me, but we will never know. We will never know. So now that I've kickstarted this, I might start one of the books. I know this is gonna definitely turn out to be less productive than I would like it to be because I played The Sims for like half a day and I'm gonna want to watch something tomorrow rather than read, but we're just gonna do like a couple thematic reads and we're gonna have fun and we're gonna play spooky music and hang out. So let me know what you're doing for the month of October, if anything. Maybe you don't care about half of this stuff, but if you are, what are you reading? Greetings once more. This is it. This is the costume. Obviously it is better in picture format because it is very, very odd in video format. But this is the costume. What is it? Hell if I know. 2 years ago I was the Joker. Last year I was, I think, an Aes Sedai, but hell if I know what this is supposed to be. I was going for Jack Skellington, but since I don't have the Jack Skellington costume, it's, I guess, just Jack Skellington face and the hood. I understand that my expressions are probably a little bit skewed, even when I'm smiling or when I'm not smiling. You can't tell because all of the facial features have been erased. This was about 2 hours of work. Like, not exactly on and off, obviously. I did other stuff, but I played Frankenstein in the background, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit because it's Dan Stevens. But I have no idea if I'll be able to finish it. Maybe just for the vibes. Let's say that I listened to Frankenstein. I read a lot of Witch last night. I started the second Ava Evergreen book. So we are in a witchy mood. I did some treats. I'm going to take a picture of them later. I did fudge and like a giant cookie, which was supposed to be a graveyard. But then the stuff we were supposed to use for the graveyard kind of went to hell. So I just did a bloody bone on top of like a hill. I will take a picture of that later. This is a mess, I will absolutely admit. Since I'm not going anywhere, the painting of the face was a bit pointless. Even I admit it. But it was great fun. I got a lot of good pictures, and now I'm going to keep it in video format. There. That's the only display of the costume that you're gonna get. I'm gonna probably make a thumbnail and stuff. But that being said, I have no idea what else I'm gonna record and if I'm gonna talk to you again, because that's it for the books. I read some Witch, I read Frankenstein, and I read poetry last night too. A couple of like autumn poems. They are literally called Autumn. I'm gonna actually get the poetry and I'm gonna tell you which ones I read, so this isn't a complete bust. But I'm gonna record like what videos I'm gonna watch, which movies I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna record the snacks, and then that might actually be it for the Halloween vlog. I didn't have a grand plan for it. I kind of just wanted the vibes to be there, so I hope you enjoyed. This is just a goodbye if I don't see you again, so Jack says bye.
Oh, it is now many years. And you, monsieur, you've known him for a long time now?
Keep an eye on you, Mrs. Oliver. There'll be no apples left to bob with.
You might be setting